Hi, Pastor Anthony here. I've got another Devo for you today. Today, if you're following the Life Journal reading plan, which I highly recommend, go ahead and read Hebrews chapters 12, 13, and Jude chapter 1. Today, we're going to kind of pick up a little bit off of where we were yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about Hebrews chapter 11 and faith. And then he goes right into chapter 12. Now remember, when these letters were written in the Bible, this is called a letter. It's an epistle written by Paul to the Hebrew people. It was not written in chapters. We separated it in chapters. So we have to kind of read it as one thought here. And so coming out of Hebrews 11, we're talking about faith. And then in the very beginning of Hebrews chapter 12, we go on a journey, and I want you to see what happens. He says, therefore. What's it there for? Well, anytime you see the word therefore, ask yourself that question. Well, what's it there for? So if you just start in anything and it says therefore, read what's before that, and you'll kind of have a little better idea of what the context of what's being taught is. And so, therefore, why? We just talked about faith. We talked about faith being necessary to please God. We talked about all of the examples of faith that there have been throughout the history of mankind. And for said reason, because of Jesus Christ and the faith that we now have, he says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great crowd or cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run the race with perseverance that's marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Now consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary or lose heart. So we're talking about faith here. And the challenge yesterday was, can you have faith even if everything doesn't look perfect? And this kind of helps you understand how you can do that. He's saying, when things aren't going your way, consider Jesus. Consider what he did to win you. And how worthy he was. And the only worthy sacrifice to be given for your debt, for your sin. And therefore Jesus is worthy of all of our praise, worthy of all of our sacrifice, and definitely worthy to have faith put in him. And so he's saying, get rid of everything. Throw it all away. Everything that entangles. Get rid of it. Now, there's a guy, I used to be a pretty serious runner, and there was a guy that really just got me. His name is Steve Prefontaine. And Prefontaine was perhaps one of the world's best runners, and he died way before his time in a car accident. He went to the Olympics. He was training for his next Olympics, and he was incredible. But the thing is the legend has it, his coach was the inventor of what we know as Nike. He came up with the Nike shoe, and he made it by putting rubber in a waffle iron. That's how some of you remember the old Nikes had like the waffle iron grid on the shoe. And he said, this waffle grid is perfect for running. So he made the first Nike shoe, and this guy wears the first pair of Nikes in a meet, and he rips the swoosh, the Nike emblem, off of the shoe, because he said this creates drag and it's extra weight. And the funny thing about it is, the day that his coach, first day he met his coach measured his shoes and said, every ounce that your shoe weighs, take that over how many steps you take in a race, and that's how much more work you have to do. So really, Steve Prefontaine was doing exactly what he was taught to do, and he was reducing the drag, and he was reducing the weight so that he could run as best as he could. And what we need to do is throw off everything that hinders us so that we can live a life of faith, going after people as Jesus Christ has called us to. Now, then there's this section between verses 4 and 11 that talk about discipline. Why is discipline here? Well, we're talking about athlete stuff here. Paul understood athlete stuff. He actually references the Olympics. But here's what he says in verse 12 and in 13. He says, therefore, what he's talking about discipline. Strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees. Make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. Endure the disciplines in your life. And you know what? God does put us through discipline. But the reason why he puts us through discipline is so that we can be a faithful and strong testimony unto his glory. And when we endure then God gives us the ability to help other people endure. When we receive healing from the Lord or the Holy Spirit, then the discipline of walking out our faith makes it so that we then can pass that healing on to other people. It's funny because here, written to the Hebrews, he's saying the goal is that you are healed. And the goal after that is that others are healed. And this is accomplished through disciplines in your life. And so perhaps things aren't perfect. Maybe things will never be perfect. But understand that God is working all things according to His purpose for His glory. And so if you're going through a season right now and you think, oh, the enemy's attacking me, take a step back for a minute and think, maybe the Lord is teaching me something. And when I learn it, I'm going to pass it on to somebody else because He's making me into His image. So let's not be weak, floppy Christians, afraid of discipline, afraid to submit ourselves to spiritual disciplines, but also submit ourselves to the fire of Jesus Christ. Because when you do that, you become powerful. And God made His church to be power. So now go out and have faith, give hope, and be love in this community.